The crystalline spires of Lamaria pierced the violet sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 moons in a dazzling display. Within the highest tower of the royal palace, Princess Solara stood before the ornate mirror in her chambers, her luminescent skin shifting through shades of azure as emotions warred within her. "I won't do it, father," she declared, turning to face King Zoraxis. Her father's own skin had taken on the deep purple of frustration, his crown of living crystal pulsing in sync with his agitation. "The alliance with Earth is crucial for our survival, Solara. Commander Nathan Reed is one of their most decorated officers. This marriage will ensure Earth's protection against the Dominion's expansion." Solara's skin flashed crimson. "So I'm to be traded like a common resource? To a human? Their species still fights among themselves. They solved their energy crisis through nuclear fission when they could have harnessed quantum harmonics. Their primitive solutions have kept them alive against threats that would have annihilated more advanced civilizations," Zoraxis countered. "They adapt, they survive, they thrive. That's exactly what our people need now." Before Solara could respond, the chamber doors opened to admit Riven, her father's chief advisor. "Your Majesty, Commander Reed's ship has entered orbit. He'll be arriving at the palace within the hour." Solara's skin took on the pale blue of despair. She had hoped to have more time to convince her father of the foolishness of this arrangement. The Lumerians had maintained their technological superiority through careful isolation, sharing their advances only with species that had proven their evolutionary maturity. Humans were barely 2 centuries into space travel. An hour later, Solara stood in the grand reception hall beside her father's crystal throne. Her ceremonial robes, woven from living light, shifted through subtle patterns that betrayed her anxiety despite her attempts to maintain a regal bearing. The massive doors swung open, and Commander Nathan Reed entered. Solara had expected a brutish military figure, but the human who approached moved with unexpected grace. His midnight blue uniform was immaculate, and his bearing spoke of disciplined power rather than brute force. His dark eyes scanned the room with quick efficiency before settling on her, and Solara was startled to see intelligence and curiosity there rather than the dull aggression she had anticipated. "Your Majesties." Reed bowed with perfect precision. "I bring greetings from Earth's United Defense Command." "Welcome, Commander," Zoraxis responded warmly. "I trust your journey through the quantum corridor was comfortable." "Quite comfortable, Your Majesty, though I must admit your technology still amazes me. We've only theorized about stable quantum corridors on Earth." Solara couldn't help herself. "Perhaps if you spent more resources on scientific advancement rather than military expansion, you'd have achieved it by now." "Solara," her father warned, but Reed's response surprised her. "You make a fair point, Your Highness," he said, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Though I would argue that necessity often drives innovation. Earth's military advances have largely come from our need to survive rather than a desire for conquest." Before Solara could formulate a response, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. The crystalline walls pulsed with urgent red light, and Riven burst into the hall, his skin gray with terror. "We're under attack. Dominion warships have breached our outer defenses." "Impossible." Zoraxis rose from his throne. "Our quantum shields. We're sabotaged, Your Majesty. We have traitors within the palace." Commander Reed's posture shifted instantly from diplomatic to tactical. "Your Majesty, we need to get you and the princess to safety." "My ship." The ceiling exploded inward in a shower of crystal shards. Through the breach, Dominion dropped ships descended, their plasma cannons already firing. Reed moved with shocking speed, tackling Solara out of the path of a plasma bolt that would have vaporized her. "The escape tunnels," she gasped as they rolled behind a pillar. "Father." But when they looked back, they saw King Zoraxis falling, multiple plasma bolts having struck him simultaneously. His crown shattered, and his skin faded to the gray of death. "No!" Solara screamed, her skin blazing white with grief and rage. She tried to run to him, but Reed held her back with surprising strength. "He's gone, Your Highness. And you'll join him if we don't move now. Where are these escape tunnels?" Solara's mind reeled between grief and survival instinct. This human, this supposed primitive, was now her only ally in a palace full of traitors and enemies. Her skin settled into the deep blue of resolution as she made her choice. Behind the third pillar, there's a crystal that pulses slightly out of sync with the others. It's a biometric lock. Reed nodded, his expression grim but focused. "I'll cover our movement. Stay close to me." As they made their way across the hall, dodging plasma fire and returning fire with Reed's advanced Earth weaponry, Solara found herself re-evaluating her assumptions. The human moved with lethal efficiency, yes, but each action was calculated and precise, protecting her while minimizing casualties among the palace guards who might simply be confused rather than treasonous. They reached the pillar, and Solara pressed her hand to the crystal. A hidden door slid open, revealing a downward-sloping tunnel lit by bioluminescent crystals. "Your Highness," Reed said urgently, firing another precise burst at their pursuers, "I know you have no reason to trust me or my species, but right now, we need to work together to survive this. Will you trust me that far at least?" Solara looked at this human who had already saved her life multiple times in the span of minutes, who had shown both intelligence and honor in their brief interaction. Her skin shifted to a determined gold. "I will trust you that far, Commander. And then we shall see what other assumptions of mine need re-evaluation." They entered the tunnel together as plasma fire scorched the wall behind them, leaving behind a throne room in chaos and a dead king whose final wish for alliance might yet be fulfilled, though perhaps not in the way he had envisioned. The escape tunnels beneath the Lemurian palace twisted like crystalline arteries, their bioluminescent walls pulsing with an increasingly urgent rhythm. Commander Nathan Reed kept pace with Princess Solara, noting how her luminescent skin had taken on the deep purple of concentration as she led them through the labyrinth. "These tunnels," he said between controlled breaths, "they're responding to the attack, aren't they? The entire palace is a living organism." The quantum ship emerged from its jump in a remote sector of the Andromeda arm, its crystalline hull adapting to blend with the stellar background. Inside the cockpit, Princess Solara's skin shifted through shades of deep blue as she studied the tactical readouts. "The Meridian outpost," Reed observed, recognizing the distant station. "Neutral territory, minimal Dominion presence. Good choice. It's also where my father maintains secret contacts," Solara replied, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "If anyone knows the full extent of Valen's conspiracy, we'll find them here." As they approached the station, Reed noticed subtle changes in Solara's demeanor. Her initial disdain for humans seemed to have given way to a grudging respect, though she still tensed whenever their hands brushed during ship operations. "Your ship's quantum camouflage is remarkable," he said, partly to break the tension. "Earth's stealth technology isn't nearly this sophisticated. Yet you've managed to defeat more advanced species," she responded, but without her earlier contempt. "I've been reviewing Earth's military history. Your adaptability is impressive. We've had to be adaptable. Earth isn't unified like Lamaria. Our diversity has made you stronger," she finished, surprising him. "I'm beginning to understand what my father saw in your people." The Meridian outpost loomed before them, a massive structure of interconnected rings spinning in eternal dance. Solara guided their ship into a private docking bay, her skin taking on the silver sheen of concentration. "My father's contact is a Nexian information broker named Thrix," she explained as they prepared to disembark. "They're unusual, even by non-human standards." Reed checked his weapon, now recharged. "Unusual how?" His question was answered when they entered a dimly lit chamber deep within the station. A creature that seemed to be made of living shadow and starlight shifted through multiple forms before settling on a vaguely humanoid shape. "Princess," Thrix's voice resonated directly in their minds. "We felt the quantum ripples of your father's passing. The threads of probability weave a dark pattern. Solara's skin paled. You knew this would happen. We see possibilities, not certainties. Your father was warned of betrayal's shadow, but he believed the Earth Alliance would prevent it. Reed stepped forward. The Dominion ships that attacked the palace. They shouldn't have been able to penetrate Lemurian space without help. Correct, Commander. Thrix's form rippled. Valen's conspiracy extends beyond Lemuria. The Dominion seeks your people's quantum technology, but they fear Earth's influence. A purely Lemurian regime under Valen would be manageable. Manageable? Solara's skin flashed crimson. My father's murder was just political convenience. Politics. Reed's voice was hard. It's always politics. On Earth, we call it a puppet government. Thrix's form expanded, showing them images of secret meetings, hidden shipments, betrayals within betrayals. Valen believes he will rule, but the Dominion plans to absorb Lemuria completely. They study your quantum technology even now. No. Solara's skin went almost white. The quantum cores. If they breach the containment protocols, they could destabilize the entire sector, Reed finished, his tactical mind racing. That's why Earth's alliance was so crucial. We might be primitive, but we have experience fighting the Dominion. Thrix's form swirled with what might have been approval. The threads shift. Your partnership alters probabilities. Before either could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Reed's tactical display lit up with multiple contacts. Dominion ships, he reported. They must have tracked us through quantum space. Impossible, Solara began, but Thrix interrupted. The traders among your people shared tracking technologies. You must leave. Now. Not without the data proving Valen's treachery, Solara insisted. Shadows swirled as Thrix transferred information directly into their ship's quantum core. Go. We will delay them. They raced back to their ship, pursuit close behind. As Reed laid down covering fire against Dominion troops, he saw Thrix's shadowy form expand throughout the station's corridors, becoming a living maze that confused and misdirected their enemies. Once inside their ship, Solara's hands flew over the controls. The quantum drive needs 30 seconds to calibrate. We don't have 30 seconds. Reed took the weapon controls. Yes, we do. He targeted the station's external power relays with surgical precision, creating a cascade of energy fluctuations that disrupted the Dominion ship's targeting systems. That's... Solara paused in admiration. Actually quite clever. Primitive problems sometimes need primitive solutions, he replied with a slight smile. The ship Quantum jumped just as their pursuers broke through the interference. As space twisted around them, Solara turned to Reed with new understanding in her luminescent eyes. I owe you an apology, Commander. I judged your species harshly, based on prejudice rather than fact. Today you've shown more honor than my own blood. Your cousin's actions don't represent all Lemurians, just as Earth's past mistakes don't define humanity's potential. He met her gaze steadily. Together, our peoples could be something greater than either of us alone. Solara's skin shifted to a color he hadn't seen before, a warm gold tinged with rose. Perhaps that's what my father truly wanted. Not just an alliance of necessity, but a genuine union of strengths. The moment was interrupted by urgent signals from the quantum core. The data Thrix had given them was decrypting, revealing the full scope of Valen's betrayal, and a possible way to stop him. We'll need help, Solara said, studying the information. Forces loyal to my father, hidden allies. And Earth, Reed added firmly. Once they see this evidence, the Defense Command will have to act. The Dominion gaining quantum technology is a threat to everyone. Solara nodded, her skin now showing the deep blue of resolve. Very well, Commander. It seems I'm not just fighting for my throne anymore, but for the future of both our peoples. As their ship cruised through quantum space, Reed reflected that the universe had a strange sense of humor. He'd come to Lumaria to secure an alliance through an arranged marriage. Instead, he'd found himself fighting alongside a princess who'd rather die than marry him, and somehow, that was forging a stronger bond than any political union could have achieved. The real question was, what would that bond become as they faced the challenges ahead? Earth's orbital defense platform Alpha 7 hung like a steel cathedral against the backdrop of humanity's homeworld. Inside its command center, Commander Reed stood beside Princess Solara as they faced the assembled Earth Defense Council. The princess's luminescent skin remained a steady diplomatic blue, though Reed could detect subtle ripples of anxiety beneath the surface. Admiral Wilson, a stern-faced woman with silver hair, studied the quantum data crystal floating above the conference table. This evidence against the Dominion is compelling. But committing Earth's forces to what could be seen as a Lumarian civil war. With respect, Admiral, Reed interjected, this is far more than a civil war. If the Dominion gains control of Lumarian quantum technology, they would have the power to destabilize spacetime itself, Solara finished. Her skin briefly flickered with remembered pain. My father understood this threat. It's why he sought alliance with Earth, even at the cost of traditional protocols. Reed noticed how she avoided mentioning the arranged marriage that had initially brought them together. Their relationship had evolved into something far more complex than either could have anticipated. The council members exchanged glances. Admiral Wilson leaned forward. Commander Reed, your report mentions Princess Solara's ship using quantum phasing to escape through solid matter. Our scientists say that's impossible. Many things I once thought impossible have proven otherwise, Admiral. Reed's voice carried the weight of recent experience. Humanity's strength lies in accepting and adapting to new possibilities. Solara turned to him, surprise and something warmer flickering across her skin. It was the first time he'd seen her display that particular shade of rose gold. Before the council could respond, emergency alerts blared throughout the station. Tactical displays lit up with multiple signatures emerging from quantum space. Dominion Battle Fleet. The tactical officer's voice was tense. They're on an attack vector. Impossible, Wilson snapped. They wouldn't dare attack Earth directly. They would if they knew we had proof of their plans, Reed said grimly. We led them right to you. Solara's skin paled. No, the quantum wake was perfectly masked. Unless. Her eyes widened. There must be a traitor in Earth's command structure too. The revelation hit the council like a physical blow. Wilson's face hardened as she began issuing rapid orders. All stations to battle positions. Launch the defense fleet. Get that evidence to secure storage. Wait. Solara stepped forward, her skin now pulsing with intense purpose. Your defenses won't hold against their quantum-enhanced weapons. But I can help. She pressed her hands to the station's primary control interface. To everyone's astonishment, the metal beneath her fingers began to crystallize, transforming as her quantum influence spread throughout the station's systems. What are you doing? Wilson demanded. Giving you a fighting chance, Solara replied through gritted teeth. Commander Reed, I need your help. Your tactical expertise combined with my quantum attunement. Reed didn't hesitate. He placed his hands beside hers on the crystallizing console. Their fingers brushed, and he felt an electric connection as her quantum energy synchronized with his mental commands. The station's weapon systems transformed, quantum crystals integrating with human technology in ways that should have been impossible. As the Dominion fleet opened fire, their energy weapons met a defense grid that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. This is incredible, the tactical officer reported. Their weapons can't lock onto us. It's like we're everywhere and nowhere at once. Now you understand what true alliance means, Solara said, addressing the council even as she maintained the quantum matrix. Not one species dominating another, but each contributing its unique strengths. Reed coordinated the defense fleet's movements through the quantum-enhanced systems, his tactical training finding new expression through Lemurian technology. Earth ships danced through space in patterns that confused and decimated the Dominion forces. But the effort was taking its toll on Solara. Her skin had paled to an alarming white, and Reed could feel her trembling where their hands touched. "You need to stop," he said softly. "You're burning too much energy." "A little longer," she whispered. "Until the quantum integration is stable. Princess." His voice carried command and concern in equal measure. "Solara. You've proved your point. Let me help you." She looked at him then, really looked at him, and he saw in her eyes the same truth he'd been gradually accepting, somewhere between conflict and cooperation, between prejudice and understanding, they developed feelings neither had expected. As the Dominion fleet retreated in disarray, Solara finally released her quantum hold. She would have collapsed if Reed hadn't caught her, supporting her with a gentleness that belied his military bearing. Admiral Wilson stood, her expression transformed by what she'd witnessed. "I believe, Your Highness, we have much to discuss about the future of Earth-Lemurian relations." "Yes," Solara replied, her skin gradually regaining its strength, shifting to that same rose-gold hue as she looked at Reed. "Though perhaps not in quite the way my father originally planned." The council chamber buzzed with excited discussion as scientists began examining the quantum-enhanced systems. But Reed's attention remained on the princess in his arms, seeing in her everything he'd come to admire: strength, intelligence, and the capacity to grow beyond traditional boundaries. "We still have to deal with Valen," he reminded her quietly. "Yes." Her determination showed in every shimmer of her skin. "But now we do so with true allies, not merely political convenience." As Earth's defense fleet regrouped and plans were made, Reed realized that the arranged marriage that had seemed so impossible at first had led to something far more valuable, a partnership forged in crisis, tempered by understanding, and transformed by genuine feeling. The question was, would it be enough to face what was coming? The combined Earth-Lemurian fleet emerged from quantum space above the crystalline world of Lemuria, a sight both beautiful and terrible. The planet's quantum shields, now under Valen's control, shimmered with corrupt energy that made reality itself shudder. In the command deck of the flagship, Princess Solara's skin rippled with barely contained emotion as she watched her homeworld. Commander Reed stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "The quantum cores are dangerously unstable," she reported, reading the sensor data. "Valen's attempts to weaponize them for the Dominion have corrupted the entire crystal matrix. If they breach containment," Reed began, "they'll create a quantum cascade that could tear apart half the sector." Solara's skin paled. "My people, they can't all support this madness." "They don't." A holographic message materialized, revealing Thrix's shadowy form. "Many remain loyal to the true crown. They await only your signal to rise." Reed studied the tactical displays. The Dominion fleet is concentrated around the capital. They're not expecting an attack from within. "Then let's give them several," Solara said, her skin taking on the fierce gold of battle readiness. "Commander, is your team prepared?" Reed nodded. "Earth's best quantum-adapted soldiers, ready to move on your mark." The plan they developed was audacious, combining Earth's military precision with Lemurian quantum science. As their fleet engaged the Dominion ships in space, drawing their attention, smaller vessels would slip through gaps in the quantum shield, gaps that only one of royal blood could detect. "Solara." Reed's use of her name without title made her turn to him. "Are you sure about this? Once we begin." "I've never been more certain of anything." Her skin showed that now familiar rose-gold hue that seemed reserved for him alone. "My father wanted our peoples united. Not through arranged marriage, but through mutual trust and respect." She met his eyes. "Through understanding." The moment stretched between them, filled with everything they hadn't yet said. Then battle stations sounded, and duty called them back to the present. The assault began with surgical precision. Earth ships executed complex maneuvers that confused Dominion targeting systems while Lemurian quantum vessels phased through their defenses. On the surface, loyal citizens began their uprising, creating chaos in Valen's ranks. Reed and Solara led their strike team through the quantum corridors of the palace, reality bending around them. They encountered pockets of resistance, but the combination of Earth tactics and Lemurian power proved unstoppable. They reached the throne room to find Valen waiting, his skin the deep crimson of rage. The quantum crown he'd stolen from Solara's father pulsed with unstable energy. "Cousin," he sneered. "You prove my point by bringing these humans to desecrate our sacred halls." "The only desecration here is your betrayal," Solara replied, her voice carrying royal authority. "Surrender, Valen. The Dominion fleet is in retreat. Your allies abandon you. Surrender." He laughed, and the sound made reality shiver. "I've unlocked power you never dreamed of. The quantum cores respond to my will now. Observe." He gestured, and the crystal walls began to fracture, quantum energy bleeding through the cracks. Reed's tactical display screamed warnings about growing instability. "You're losing control," Solara said, her voice almost pitying. "The cores were never meant to be weapons. They're alive, Valen. Part of Lomaria itself. Then let them choose their true master." Valen unleashed a blast of corrupted quantum energy. Reed moved to shield Solara, but she was faster. Her hands rose, and pure quantum force met Valen's attack. The collision of energies sent crystalline shockwaves through the palace. "Commander," she called out, maintaining the quantum barrier, "the cores." Reed understood. While Solara held Valen's attention, he led his team to the quantum core chamber. Inside, the massive crystals pulsed with sick light, their natural harmony disrupted by Dominion technology. Years of tactical training, combined with everything he'd learned about Lemurian science, guided his actions. His team moved with practiced efficiency, removing the corrupt interfaces while he established a clean connection to the cores. Above, the battle between cousins reached its crescendo. Valen's power was greater, fueled by rage and corrupted energy. But Solara stood firm, her strength coming not from dominance but from harmony, with her people, with the quantum forces, and with the humans she'd once despised. "You never understood, cousin," she said as he pressed his attack. "True power isn't about control. It's about connection." At that moment, Reed completed his work. The quantum cores surged with renewed life, recognizing their true connection to the royal bloodline. Energy coursed through the palace, but this time in its natural flow. Valen's stolen crown shattered as the quantum forces rejected his corrupt command. The backlash sent him staggering, his skin fading to ashen gray. Before he could recover, Earth soldiers had him secured. "It's over," Solara declared, though there was sorrow in her voice for what her cousin's betrayal had cost them all. Hours later, as order was restored and healing began, Solara and Reed stood in the restored throne room. Through the crystal walls, they could see Earth ships and Lemurian vessels moving in harmony, working together to repair the damage. "The Council has approved a permanent Earth presence here," Reed reported. "A true alliance, based on mutual defense and scientific exchange." "And what of their original plan for securing that alliance?" Solara asked, her skin shifting through subtle colors. "The arranged marriage?" Reed turned to her fully. "I think we've proven there are stronger foundations for partnership than political convenience." "Indeed." Her smile was radiant, her skin glowing with that special rose gold that he now knew meant love. Though perhaps politics occasionally get something right, even if not in the way intended. He took her hand, human warmth meeting Lemurian light. "Are you suggesting, Your Highness, that some arrangements might be worth considering? If they arise from choice rather than obligation?" "I'm suggesting, Commander," she replied, twining her fingers with his, that the best unions come from understanding our differences, cherishing our strengths, and choosing to face the future together. Above them, the quantum crystals sang with renewed harmony as two peoples began the work of true alliance. And if that alliance was strengthened by the love between a human commander and a Lemurian princess, well, sometimes the heart's wisdom exceeds all diplomatic plans. The crystalline spires of Lemuria rose proud against the star-filled sky, no longer in isolation but in celebration of new connections, new understandings, and new possibilities that stretched as infinite as space itself.